Okay, I think it's going. Like I said, I'm not an expert at doing these videos, so there's no editing involved here. I'm just going for it and sharing the things that are in my heart. And today, it's going to be the start of videos that are for children who have someone they love who's dying, and who I call the forgotten mourners. These are children that when the dying process is happening, people kind of forget that they're there. So I wanted to read to you from my book today, um, a book in started in training. So this is just a section of the book. So I start by saying, I'm a nurse working on palliative care. This is back in 1992 when I first started working on the palliative care unit. Um, I've been a nurse now for 36 years, and I want to share with you what I've learned. So I write here that caring for the dying and their families is an honor. You cannot get another job that is more rewarding than working on palliative care, hospice palliative care. It's not a sad place to work. We had weddings and birthdays and sleepovers. It was all about living life, quality of life, not quantity. I had been working on the unit for 2 weeks when I passed by a patient's room. There was a young mom standing in the doorway of her room, holding her 2-year-old son on her hip. She was so thin, I wondered how she could hold him. I stopped to visit with her and I found out that my daughter and her son were the same age. I thought, that could be me standing in that doorway. And who would look after my 2 babies if something happened to me? My husband is wonderful, but he would be overwhelmed looking after a 2 and a 4-year-old. I thought, I would want someone to reach out to them in their grief. This beautiful young woman died of cancer of the liver 2 weeks after I met her, leaving 4 young boys behind. I knew at that moment I would never get hardened or used to my new job. So I had a goal. I had a dream that I would reach out to each child coming through the palliative care unit. I decided no matter how big or how small, I would do something to help the children. The energy I put towards this goal helped me deal with the hundreds of deaths we would see each year on the palliative care unit. Each child that I met taught me something important that I could help other children with. I started taking every bit of education I could find on grief and bereavement, and there wasn't much available way back then. It was a very important message that I learned from children. They taught me that one of the main things that they taught me is that children need to know that their parent is dying. They want to know. They have some things that they want to tell them. Children need to be a part of the dying process. The parent's going to die, whether we tell them or not. So we need to help them to be able to say goodbye. I'm going to share some stories with you. I'm not sharing these stories to make you feel sad. I am sharing these stories so that you can learn from what they've been through. I am sharing these stories so that you can help other children. We may not be able to stop that parent from dying, remember that, but we can sure help the child along the way. These children have many stories to share, and each story will make a positive difference in your life. I remember giving a presentation once I was in Corner Brook, Newfoundland, and I shared a story about a mom who was dying of cancer, and she had a 2 and a 4-year-old girls, adorable little girls. and was just kind of sharing the story of their journey. And at the end of the presentation, this lady came up to me and she said, "I know who you're talking about." And I said, "Oh," I said, "Are you from Sarnia?" And she said, "No, no." She said, "That's my neighbor down the street. She has breast cancer and she's dying and she has a 2 and a 4-year-old. That's their story." Well, it was not the same person. And you're gonna find out that there are many stories the same. I've changed all the names and everything in the stories I share, but you're gonna find out with some of the stories, and they're the same. And that's why we need to learn from what the children are teaching us, because there are many stories the same. Later on, I'm gonna put an address up, and hopefully people can mail me their story, you know, in a handwritten letter on paper, not by email or you know, stuff like that. So that's what I'm working on, because there's many stories out there to share, and it helps us to learn to help other children. And children need to be prepared. They need to be a part of the dying process. It's it's that fear of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen, then we get afraid. And so if we can prepare and know what's going to happen, that will help us. So this is the beginning of the studies. So I'm going to stop here and kind of save this, and then I will tell individually in many videos examples of a story and what we learn from that story and how we can help. So I'm gonna stop it here, and then I'll start the first case study.